Work.
I'm just, we're just gonna go live again.
Okay.
That we had to go live again because she just told me the story, a story that I think is so relevant towards working towards Blacks. We are live again. This is part two of Fatima Halim, and we were talking just about these experiences that we have when we're on the continent. And she started telling me about the first time that she went to Africa, and I just, it was too good not to talk about, because this is the core. This is at the core of what the show is really trying to get at. And so I want you to tell me again this story.
Well, it's actually a very painful story, but fortunately, I've had the opportunity to travel back and forth to Africa extensively since then. But this was my very first time in Africa, and I was in, I think it was the Ivory Coast. We were at the Pan African Film and Television Festival, and I was in a workshop. And the workshop was about the portrayal of Africans in the media, basically. And we thought it was a very appropriate because we have very similar circumstances here in Africa and in America. So I'm sitting in a workshop, and there were different people in there. We had our headphones on for translation, and there were white people in the workshop. There were black people in the workshop. I mean, there was just a myriad of folks that were there. And over the headphones, we were all waiting for the workshop to start. And over the headphones, I hear, well, all non-Africans leave the room. And I'm like excited. I was like, well, my brothers and sisters in Africa, they are too cool. We would never tell people to leave. We may not want them there, but we'll let them stay. We let the white folks stay. We don't say anything. We would just let them stay. And so a couple of the white folks, they got up and they felt really bad, but they left the room. And so they kept saying, will all non-Africans please leave the room? Well, there was this one white woman who just refused to get up. And she said, I am married to an African. I have been living in Africa for 25 years. I am an African and I am staying. And I was like, oh, okay, white girl got some nerve there. And so they said it one more time. They said, will the Black Americans please leave the room? I was frozen. I mean, the tears just started coming out my eyes because this is my first time in Africa. And I'm like, finally, I'm home. I'm home. And then I was like, oh God. I mean, I could not stop the tears from coming. I mean, my face had to be just soaking wet. And I said, I'm like the hyphen between African and American. I'm in America. America don't want me. I come to the motherland and the motherland doesn't want me. Who the hell am I? And I'm just crying, crying. I can't move. I'm frozen. So there were a couple of other African American sisters that were there, and they literally picked me up out my seat and brought me out. And I'm heaving now. You're like, the snot, I mean, it was just a crazy. Because I don't know who I am now. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. And they took me out. The sisters were upset. And I'm so glad that they were there because I was weak. I was weak. And I'm so glad that I had my sisters there. And they got me, and they got me out and got me together. Well, they made a big fuss. Our sisters, as they should have, they made a big fuss over this. And the president of that particular country, or wherever we were, he apologized profusely. The ambassador, everybody, they came to our defense. They invited us to dinner at the palace and all of that other kind of stuff. But of course, by then the harm was done. I was in
Mhm.
such pain. But they did everything they could. They chastised the folks who did it. They apologized on their behalf, and I had a whole different kind of feeling, a little feeling about Africa after that. Fortunately, several days after that, we went to Ghana. And the
Mhm.
Ghanaian people were so loving and open. It was welcome home, my sisters. Welcome home, my brothers. We're so happy to have you. Anything they kind of made up for it. Really, they really
Mhm.
did. They were so loving and so welcoming. I felt like I was home. I really did. I felt like I was in projects, and there was
Mhm.
my brothers and sisters there, and it just felt really good. But that was my experience, and as I said, thank you God, I have had the opportunity to travel extensively to Africa damn near every year of my life since then, and I have a whole different perception of our people there, and it fluctuates. Just like I got a whole different perception of my own people here. We a different kind of people in a good way and in a strange way.
What did it do when you, I know for me, I once I started to travel and really stay, and I understood the layers that, blackness is a concept that is very Western, right?
Mhm.
And a necessity for us in a way that for Africa, because of tribal, tribes and culture, it's very different. So blackness is a concept that they have to now embrace and accept for African unity, right? And I understand that now that's very complicated. Did it shift something for you in that space of what felt like rejection, once you started to understand culturally that there was not an understanding of blackness on the continent?
All of that. I mean, when you're in pain, and it's kind of hard to see and feel anything except for that pain. I didn't want to feel like a victim because that's almost kind of how I was beginning to feel, as if like they just really don't like me, and they don't. And I also felt, yes, that they did not understand what it was like to be black. They didn't understand what blackness was all about. It's much more comprehensive than they were giving us credit and themselves credit for. So yeah, I absolutely felt that, and to a very great degree, when I go back and forth now, I still feel like that. That there is a brotherhood and a sisterhood that is not being honored the way it should. There's always, I always feel like, sometimes you're always made to feel like the other.
Mhm.
Like, oh, look, the Americans are here, or they think that we're all rich because we're there. They're not understanding we save our asses off of our little butts, or we sacrifice, we don't pay the rent, we get evicted, we lose our cars just so we could come. We're not rich. But they see us all as having money, probably
Mhm.
because we can come there, but they can't come here. They don't have that the luxury of coming here for the
Mhm.
money, or just the political climate won't allow that to happen. So yeah, there are some differences that I see when I go back home, when I go back to Africa, um, and that is sometimes very painful, and sometimes it just makes me very upset. It just makes me very angry. So
Mm. Do you think that African Americans in general are tackling or dealing with this idea of, um, kind of like, I remember one of my friends, Rashid, describing it as feeling like an orphan of the world, like you have no place. And I feel like I've been really detecting a level of resentment around slavery, a resentment around, Africans' relationship to slavery. And I know you suggested that it was something else, and I thought that that was an interesting way to look at it. Can you tell them a little bit about what your suggestion of it is, and from the state side?
well, let me share this. I was in Cameroon, and we were there preparing for the year of the return with at least Dr. Lisa Aubrey. It was a wonderful thing. We were going to a lot of the different villages, and we were talking to the kings or the chiefs of those particular villages. And a couple of times when we went in, they seemed to be very resentful with us. And they were saying, "Why are you here? Are you trying to blame us for slavery?" I mean, they thought that we were there to chastise them. They didn't know that we were there to embrace them. And so they were very hostile initially. And this was in a couple of the villages we went into in Cameroon. They were very hostile toward us because they thought that we were trying to come there and say, "You need to give us some land because of slavery." But we weren't there for that. And once we made that point clear, as a matter of fact, I made that point very clear to them. That's not what we're here for. Then they opened up a little bit more. I think here, when we talk about our brothers and sisters here, it's almost as if many of them are afraid to travel to Africa because of the stereotypes that's been imposed on us over the years. So they think that Africa is savage. They think that Africans are savage. They think that it's a very poor place, and they think that when they go, that they're going to have to sleep outside and in a hut or something crazy. Personally, I wish I was able to sleep in a hut or something like that when I went. I've never had that experience. I don't know if I'll like it, but the point is that I had never had that experience. I've always been in hotels, and I think that so I do feel as if there's we've been miseducated on both sides of the continent in regards to that. But I also feel that it's important that we travel. I mean, every time I talk to a person who's never been out of the country, and I'm talking about African Americans, I say, well, where do you want to go? Nobody ever wants to go to Africa. Everybody wants to go to Europe. Everybody wants to go to the islands. You know,
Hmm.
nobody ever wants to go to Africa. And when I ask them, it's because they're scared.
Hmm.
They're afraid. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like how you can't be. I have to consistently. I find myself consistently educating African Americans on Africa and how it's a place that you really want to go. You must go at least once in your lifetime. So
How are you observing kind of this rift that we have, specifically in New York, between African American and African communities? Where do you think, some of this resentment comes from on the African American side towards African immigrants? Because I mean, this is a conversation that we hear often. I always hear Africans talking about they were teased and made to feel terrible, but I know that there's a flip side to that.
yeah, and I'm quite sure that they were. But at the same time, when I go back home, and like I've said it earlier, I'm from New York, and when I go back home and I go down 125th Street and I see the brothers, the sisters, was particularly Senegalese sisters or Ghanaian, whoever they are, who are doing the hair, because a lot of you find a lot of the African sisters out there are doing the braids there. For me, their attitudes are so nasty and so um I feel a bit of arrogance there. And even when I'll say hi, and they'll look at me and they'll just, totally ignore me. And so I just keep moving. So I think that there's this thing where some of the brothers and sisters from Africa may feel as if they're better than we are. And I know that we got some ignorant folks here in America too, who probably make them feel as if they're nothing. So it's
How do we heal this? Like this is that thing. What is it that, is it education? Is it the travel? Is it how do we get that girl who may not leave, the Bronx or may not leave anytime soon? How do we shift those people?
give them a free trip. If they ain't never left, that might mean they ain't got the money to leave. And maybe we need to start trying to pull some money together to bring some folks to Africa
Mhm.
so that they could
It
see.
really is just exposure.
It's
Like you just don't grow without the exposure.
you have to be exposed. I also think, and for those brothers and sisters who are here, African Americans, when they see Africans in America, in their cities, that they should take the time and the effort to go and visit. They should take the time and the effort to go and to talk and to build a relationship. To just, I think it's important that we build relationships with one another. They have the African market on 116th Street, and God knows if how it is right now because of COVID. But you got the brothers and sisters from continents to Africa who've got this incredible marketplace with the most incredible clothing and bags, etc. And
Mhm.
and we go to shop there. African Americans go to shop there. So there's probably a better relationship with those folks who are spending money with the brothers and sisters in Africa, well, from Africa, who are there. But I think that it's important that we begin to really just build relationship.
Mhm.
Just stop talking. Just stop and hey, I was just tell me about Africa. You know, anything you want to know about America that I could tell you? That I probably don't know much my damn self, but but I think that we need to start having conversations. That's important. That's
I
what
just had to
we
come back and get these stories because they're fascinating and poignant, and I think that these are the things that we have to share these experiences that we're having. So thank you again. Bye everyone. My second
need.
live.
Wait, before you go though, I think it's important to tell you that if you're going to go for the first time, go to a English speaking country, Nigeria or well, Ghana, places that yeah, I know that's the first thing that came out of my
The
mouth.
Nigerians are gonna come for me with that look.
No, no, no. It's only because y'all are so advanced in Nigeria that we need to be able to country your with whatever. Go to a place like Ghana that's very, very friendly, and so that at least you can speak the language. Because if you go to a francophone country or a French-speaking country, it might be a little bit more difficult because you won't be able to communicate, and that could be very, very frustrating. I tell you, I made friends with a white girl from Canada when I was in the francophone. I think I was in Ivory Coast.
Mhm.
That was my best friend, honey. That girl spoke French like, and I was like, "Can you tell him?" It's for me.
Yeah.
So learn a language and or go to an English speaking country first, so that you could at least be able to communicate and understand what's going on. They can
Yes.
understand you. Right?
Thank you, Fatima Halim. Thank you guys for tuning back in to part two for today of Working Towards Black.
Bye.
Bye.